Okay, hello to day 5 of distance learning. We are talking about 6-5 today, trapezoids. So let's get started. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral, so we're still talking about quadrilaterals. However, this type of a quadrilateral has exactly one pair of parallel sides. So exactly one set of opposite parallel sides. Okay, so here we have the red sides here are called bases, and they are the sides that are parallel. The other two legs or sides are called legs, and those are the two sides that connect the two bases. All right, it has here, trapezoid has two pairs of base angles. So this is considered a base angle along with this one. Doesn't mean they are congruent, but they could be. And here's another set of base angles along with this one. Okay, so there's two sets of base angles. Now, there is a special type of a trapezoid that is called an isosceles trapezoid. So just like an isosceles triangle, where these two sides are congruent, if I were to cut this off and make it a trapezoid, that's an isosceles trapezoid, where the two legs are congruent. All right, here's a theorem on an isosceles trapezoid. If a trapezoid is isosceles, then each pair of base angles are congruent. So as you can see here, D and C are congruent to each other. A and B are congruent, but only if it's an isosceles trapezoid. Section 6.13, or theorem 6.13, if trapezoid has a pair of congruent base angles, then it is an isosceles trapezoid. So all you need to do is show that, first of all, it's a trapezoid by having a pair of parallel sides and one pair of base angles are congruent. If that's the case, then it is called an isosceles trapezoid. All right, this is an isosceles trapezoid. So we know that it's an isosceles trapezoid. Find the missing angle measures. Okay, all right, so here's what we can do. Because angle S is equal to 50, I know that angle R is also 50 because these are base angles. Now, if you think about the fact that you have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, if this is 50 degrees, this one is 130 degrees because they are same side interior angles. So angle P, the measure of angle P, I should say, is 130. The measure of angle S is 50, the measure of angle R is 50. And then likewise, these are base angles, so they also have to be congruent. So the measure of angle Q is 130. Same side interior angles are supplementary. All right, go ahead and pause your video, and I'll be back in a minute to check on whether or not you got these correct. Okay, welcome back. It says that these are isosceles, so we know they're isosceles, so we know those are congruent. We know that the measure of angle C has to be 100, so this is 100 degrees. The measure of angle A has to be 80 because these two are same side interior angles. And then the measure of angle B also has to be 80 because they are congruent angles. The measure of angle D is 70. The measure of angle A and the measure of angle B are the same. They have to be 110. The measure of angle B is 75. The measure of angle D and the measure of angle C have to be the same. They have to add up to 180 here, so this would have to be 105. All right, talking about what a mid-segment of a trapezoid is. A mid-segment is a segment that connects the midpoints of the two legs. So we have a midpoint here, M. So these two sides are congruent, or segments are congruent. This is midpoint N, so those two are congruent. So therefore, this mid-segment has to be parallel to the other two bases. So all three of these are parallel, the top base, the mid-segment, and the bottom base. What we also know about the mid-segment is the fact that 1/2 of the two bases added together. So if you take the bottom base, add the top base, and then divide them by 2, the mid-segment is that length. Okay, so I'm going to do an example on here since I have room. If this one is 10, this one is 20, this one has to be 15 because it's the average of those two other bases. So 20 plus 10 divided by 2 is 1/2 of 30, which is 15. Okay, so here's another example. They say find the length of the mid-segment. The mid-segment is DG is 1/2 of 8 plus 20. We take the two bases, add them together, and divide by 2. So 1/2 of 28 is 14. So the mid-segment is 14. It's halfway between 8 and 20.